Let's talk about Dr. Seuss, shall we? Now, this is ridiculous. The cancel culture has come for Dr. Seuss. That's right. They're going after Dr. Seuss. He has some controversial imagery that they think is not okay. In fact, the White House has removed Dr. Seuss from the annual children's reading. Wait, what is this? It is Saki Punt's question about Dr. Seuss being left out of the reading proclamation. Right. So, and this Dr. Seuss has been a part of this for the past two administrations. So even Obama didn't have an issue with, and now I say even Obama because he's a person of color, which I don't even like this. And Zuby posted something today about why we shouldn't use the term person of color. It's actually fantastic. And you know what? I'm just going to bring it up because it's so good. And I'm like, yes, Zuby is a boss, man. I would love to have him on my show. Zuby, if you want to come on my show, please do. It would be fantastic. Let's see, where did he post it? Anyway, so he was having a conversation with Ben Shapiro, and Ben Shapiro was talking about the term people of color, and he was explaining something. Zuby's like, you know what? I don't even like that term. And he goes on to explain, because it's only a term for non-white person. There's no term for non-black person or I don't know. It's like, he's like, it's basically only used for Klansmen and far left extremists. They're the only people that feel the need to use this and segregate themselves. And I was just like, dang, like that is fire. Yeah, here it is right here. I mean, I can't play it because I don't know why my sound's doesn't seem to work for you guys. Anyway, shout out to Zuby because that dude is a boss. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. So Dr. Seuss, it's his birthday today, mind you, March 2nd. He's a Pisces. Shout out to fellow Pisces. It's also my birthday week. Dr. Seuss's birthday is today, and it's celebrated March 2nd, and because it's his birthday. Congratulations, happy birthday. You're canceled. They're now going to burn your books and all of your fun characters that you've built throughout the years, and Cat in the Hat, which came out in the 50s, and it's still one of the biggest kids stories out there. Well, now we got this interesting article about the surprisingly radical politics of Dr. Seuss. This does a good job of explaining kind of what's going on here. There's a healthy dollop of wisdom percolating through the slapstick silliness and anarchic absurdity of Dr. Seuss, more perhaps than any other children's author. The musings of the U.S. writer and illustrator Theodore Seuss Geisel, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but who adopted the pen name Dr. Seuss while at college, amount to a kind of philosophy. It's one that has been entered popular consciousness, contributing to pop song lyrics and even being cited by a Supreme Court judge. Yet there's also a political edge to Dr. Seuss that is often overlooked. Seuss wrote and illustrated more than 60 books, which have sold over 600 million copies. His most famous, The Cat in the Hat, 1957, reveals many of his signature flourishes. A delight in words for their own sake, creating more or ever more surreal combinations through surprising rhymes, drawing of fantastical figures, and complicated inventions, and a questioning of the values and conventions of adults. And here he is with his book, Cat in the Hat. This is actually in 1957. Arguing in a 1959 Life magazine interview that kids can see a moral coming a mile off and they gag at it. Seuss chose humor over dogmatism. There was a time, however, when he combined the two, and many believe it was during this period that the essential elements of Dr. Seuss emerged. The surreal rhyming verse and strange creatures that populated his children's book, whales with long eyelashes, goats joined at the beard, many-legged cows, find their roots in his World War II propaganda cartoons. Dr. Seuss, beloved purveyor of genial rhyming nonsense for beginning readers, stuff about cats and hats and foxes and socks, started as a feisty political cartoonist who exhorted America to do battle with Hitler. Yeah, right, exclaimed Art Spiegelman, the graphic novelist who created Mouse, in the foreword of a 1999 book. Historian Richard Miner, Dr. Seuss Goes to War, features nearly 200 cartoons that were left unseen for half a century. Cartoons help redraw the beloved king of the kooky. Here is one of them. It's a whale drawn in 1941, The Isolationist. Said a whale, there is so much commotion, such fights among fish in the ocean. I'm saving my scalp, living high on an alp. Dear Lindy, he gave me the notion. All right, interesting. And they get pretty crazy here. Fair warning. All right, I'm just giving you a fair warning. Check this out. Describing Dr. Seuss' wartime output as a very impressive evidence of cartooning as an art of persuasion, Spiegelman explains how they rail against isolationism, racism, and anti-Semitism with a conviction and fervor lacking in most other American editorial pages of the period. Virtually the only editorial cartoons outside the communist and black press that decried the military Jim Crow policies and Charles Lindbergh anti-Semitism, Dr. Seuss, he argues, made these drawings with a fire of honest indignation and anger that fuels all real political art. Between January 1941 and January 1943, Seuss created more than 400 political cartoons for the left-wing daily New York newspaper PM. He attacked the America First policies espoused by Lindbergh and others who wanted to prevent U.S. entering World War II. He lampooned Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, and Benito Mussolini and pleaded for racial tolerance. Not really what you expected to hear. The head eats, the rest get milked. They're very spicy, these. My goodness. Can't take the V. You can't build a substantial V out of turtles. Dawdling producers. Through these cartoons, we see Seuss develop his goofily surreal vision while he delivers the ethical goods, argued Spiegelman. The unique galumphing menagerie of Seussian fauna, the screwball humor and themes that later enraptured millions, came into focus in these early drawings that were done with urgency on a very short deadlines. According to Miner, most of Seuss's later books, barring the ones teaching children to read, are political in some way. They can contain features that can be traced back to the wartime cartoons. One depicting a whale stranded on a mountain in a parody of American isolationists later appeared in the 1955 book On Beyond Zebra. Another showing a cow with many udders to represent conquered Europeans, nations being milked by Hitler. Also featured in the same book, a cartoon satirizing dawdling wartime producers with a teetering tower of turtles was replaced in Seuss's 1958 book, Yertle the Turtle. That book itself is a political parable. Not many people know that when he first drew Yertle, it had a Hitler mustache. So Yertle was Hitler. Richard Miner told BBC Culture, "The story has been seen as poking fun at all despots, with one journalist arguing in 2003 that its final lines appear as much to Saddam Hussein as they once did to the European fascists. Another claims that its warning on the dangers of overreaching is an important lesson for business. More recently, critics of rising American nationalism have shared Dr. Seuss's cartoons. The message in his stories help explain the enduring power of Dr. Seuss as much as his humor and poetry." Here I have some more here. As Spiegelman argues, the wartime cartoons make us more aware of the political messages often embedded within the sugar pill of Dr. Seuss's signature zaniness. While Yertle is an anti-fascist tale, The Sneetches, 1953, tells a story about a discrimination based on stars worn on the bellies of birds. What are those stars, asked Spiegelman, if not Magen David's? And the Lorax is one of the most powerful environmental fables of the 20th century. Published in 1971, the year after the celebration of First Earth Day, it has been described in Nature magazine as a kind of silent spring for the playground set, teaching generations of children about ecological ruin brought on by greed, and offering lessons of environmental policy today. Meanwhile, the Butter Battle Book is a parable about arms races, in particular mutually assured destruction. According to Spiegelman, its polemic for nuclear disarmament created a blizzard of controversy when it first appeared in 1984. While reflecting the concerns of the Cold War era, it is also timeless satire, depicting a deadly conflict caused by something trivial, in this case, toast. It recalls a war in Gulliver's Travels sparked by an argument over how to crack an egg. On the offense, one problematic issue in Dr. Seuss's wartime cartoons is touched upon in Horton Hears a Who. The Japanese cartoons are horribly narrow and racist and stereotyped, said Minier. The supporter of the mass incarceration of Japanese Americans, Seuss used offensive stereotypes to caricature the Japanese in his cartoons, leading to accusations that he was racist. I think he would find a legitimate criticism, because I remember talking to him about at least once and him saying that things were done a certain way back then. Ted Owens, a great nephew of Giselle, told the New York Times characterizations were done, and he was a cartoonist and he tended to adopt those. I know later in his life he was not proud of those at all. Seuss followed up in a 1976 interview for his former college, Dartmouth, with a handwritten note in which he partially apologized for the cartoons. He says, "When I look at them now, they're hurriedly and embarrassedly badly drawn, and they're full of many snap judgments that every political cartoonist has to make. The one thing I do like about them, however, is their honesty and their frantic fervor. I believed the U.S. would go down the drain if we listened to the American firstisms. I probably was intemperate in my attacks on them, and they almost disarmed this country at the time. It was obviously about to be destroyed, and I think I helped a little bit, not much, but some, in stating the fact that we were in a war, and we damned well better ought to do something about it." And then even here it says, this is obviously Hitler wrapping up a package of race hatred, my annual gift to civilization, and he's basically calling the U.S. out for not helping. And that's kind of what he was doing. He was against Hitler. And so it's interesting how he was calling out the people in America that was like, well, we don't need to get involved in this, so we shouldn't. And it's like, well, we should have, because who knows if we didn't get into that war, like what would have happened if they won, According to Minier, Horton Hears a Who was an apology of sorts for his anti-Japanese cartoons. It was written soon after the war and after a visit to Japan. He doesn't come out and explicitly say he's recanting his earlier views, but it's a very different take. In 1954, book is a parable about post-war relations between the U.S., Japan, and the Soviet Union, promoting equal treatment with the line, "A person's a person, no matter how small." Seuss was engaged in propaganda during his war years. One superior officer described him as, in an evaluation, as a personal zealot. As Minier put, he worked for a couple of years with Frank Capra on Why We Fight series, which is a documentary film propaganda. If you look at them now, they're sort of a piece with the wartime cartoons. This is more of these cartoons here. He simplified things. This was a part of the wartime experience. By the time he came out of World War II, there was a focus that hadn't been there before. It continued into his later children's books. The books themselves are, in the broader sense, propaganda, argument, persuasion. And this is looks like some sort of quote. Well, I'll just keep reading because they always take it out of here. Although Dr. Seuss insisted he never started out with a moral in his children's stories, he did say there's an inherent moral in any story. Often he was able to use his humor to mask what could be weighty topics. He's a genius that way, argues Minier. He was very conscious of what he was doing, what he was trying to do. Even The Cat in the Hat had a political edge. In Jonathan Cott's 1983 collection of interviews, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Seuss said in response to the suggestion that some of his books are subversive, "I'm subversive as hell. I've always had a mistrust of adults." Hilaire Belloc, in these writings I liked a lot, was radical. Gulliver's Travels was subversive, and both Swift and Voltaire influenced me. The Cat in the Hat is a revolt against authority, but it ameliorated, Yeah, by the fact, I don't know what that says. It's ameliorated by the fact that the cat cleans up everything in the end. Spiegelman finds a precursor to the cat's red and white striped hat in the headgear on the bird Seuss drew to depict the U.S. in his political cartoons. Seuss himself didn't necessarily see a huge disconnect between what he was doing during the war and what he did afterwards. Children's literature's As I Write It and As I See It as satire, to a great extent, satirizing the mores and the habits of the world. He is quoted in Kott's book. There's Yertle the Turtle, which was modeled on the rise of Hitler, and then there's The Sneetches, which was inspired by my opposition to anti-Semitism. These books come from the part of my soul that started out to be a teacher. Their cartoons offer us richer understanding on one of the best-selling children's authors of all time. He revealed, when discussing the Butter Battle book in 1984, interview for US Today, "I don't think my book is going to change society, but I'm naive enough to think that society will be changed by examination of ideas through books and press, and that the information can prove to be greater than the dissemination of stupidity." Now that line is fantastic. I'm going to read that one more time. This is a quote directly from him. "I don't think my book is going to change society, but I'm naive enough to think that society will be changed by examination of ideas through books and the press, and that information can prove to be greater than the dissemination of stupidity." Why do you think they want to get rid of books? Why do they want to get rid of books? They wanted to get rid of this book. When Jordan Peterson announced this book, Beyond Order, which is his second in the series of 12 Rules for Life, then 12 More Rules for Life, they considered him, if you listen to Jordan Peterson at all, you know he's certainly not anything that they call him. But he pokes holes in everything that their entire ideology, and he's an incredible person for doing so. So when he announced this, they wanted to burn this book. They were trying to get the company that was going to produce this book to cancel it outright. Well, it didn't work. I have it in my hand. But now they're doing that with Dr. Seuss. And in fact, this is a tweet from Chrissy Mayer just doing they were all sold out of Fahrenheit 451, so I got these instead. She's a jokester. And so they won't be published anymore. And to think I saw it on Mulberry Street, on Beyond Zebra, which we heard, it was actually basically based on some of his political stuff. Scrambled Eggs Super, The Cat's Quizzer, Mick Elliott's Pool, If I Ran the Zoo. Some of these books are now going on eBay for $200, $300. I mean, I just checked it out just to see, and it's pretty insane. But look at this, she actually grabbed some of these. So good for you, Chrissy. Good for you. I guess she's going to be live stream reading them, which is kind of cool, because it looks like people are going to have a hard time finding them. Now, I'm going to show you one of his political cartoons that is actually very racist. No joke. Now, this is a warning. I have changed this. I took out one of the words because it's rather terrible. Like, I'm kind of appalled by this, and I feel like I need to show it because it's terrible. And this is, so all the things that Dr. Seuss may have said, this cartoon I am not okay with, and it's bad. All right, so it starts out innocent enough, right? Pick out fly for your ointment, first class monkey wrench to throw in your machinery, this size haystack takes a needle whatever. And then this is terrible. Take home a high grade N-word. Straight up had the word written there for your wood pile. This is disgusting. Like, and I'm not going to show it anymore. Yeah, trigger warning, straight up. But that's a Dr. Seuss, man. That's a cartoon from Dr. Seuss. So I mean, he may claim he's not racist, but that's pretty bad, dude. Dr. Seuss, man, dude, what are you doing, man? That's pretty bad.